Hey guys, so I was looking up cancer because I've been kind of curious to know how can I reduce my risk. I've shared it with you guys before. Two people in my family have had cancer. Both of them passed away from cancer. One being my grandma, which is my mom's mom, and the other one being my uncle, which is my dad's brother. And I did not know that cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States. So I would like to try and figure out what are things that I can do to reduce my rate, because what I have learned is if you can prevent it or if you can try to prevent it, that seems to be much better than finding yourself in a situation that you do have cancer. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So I'm not saying that I think I can avoid cancer, but I like to minimize my chances of getting cancer. Um, that yeah. But I've heard that it's pretty common for people to get cancer. I really, really hope that nobody I know in my life, including myself, has cancer. And I am knocking on wood. So look at this: global cancer data by country. Now, when I read this, I thought, okay, most likely I would think it would be the places with a lot of pesticide use. I imagine it'll be somewhere China, maybe United States would be the top one. But check this out. Freaking number one country is Australia, followed by New Zealand, Ireland, Hungary. Now, this surprised me because when I think about New Zealand, for instance, I think of like not so much pollution as in the United States, or definitely not like China or India. Now, I'm not too sure if it's, how they came across this. Is it because these people went to the hospital and they got that kind of testing versus, maybe some other remote countries? They don't, maybe they didn't get testing for that. I'm not too sure how they figured this number out, but genuinely shocked me. So look at this: the United States is number five. So why are these four countries higher than the United States? Really shocks me. Even when I think about the food, I imagine that the food in Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and Hungary would be more healthy than the crap that we eat in the United States, which is a lot of processed foods. New Zealand and Australia, I believe, they have what, for instance, like grass-fed meat. And I know people will give me criticism on this just for mentioning it, but seriously, like when I think about the United States and our meat quality, and I imagine the lush green of fields of Ireland that I've seen, or New Zealand, and they have pasture raised animals. Just to hear about that they have more cancer than the United States just boggles my mind. I don't know how it happens. So look at this. We got Belgium, France, Norway, freaking Netherlands is up there too. Norway, aren't those listed as like one of the happiest countries to live in? Seriously. And then look at this. And we got France, UK, South Korea. Now, South Koreans, they eat a lot of instant noodles. You have things. I do know that South Koreans, and I think if I remember correctly, the Japanese, they have like an increased rate of stomach cancers, and they think it's because of all the, allegedly, okay, all the fermented foods, or all like the high sodium stuff. So instant noodles, for instance, have a lot of high sodium. I've tried to stay away from that stuff. I still eat it, but I eat it a lot less than I used to. But freaking South Korea is number 14, and again, New Zealand, Ireland is number 2 and 3. Like, what is going on here? And then you got these other countries, right, that you would think, okay, like they're not probably not eating that much crap food, but they still have cancer rates. It's not okay. Like, look at the difference here. Australia, New Zealand is 468 and 438 out of 100,000 people. I'm assuming, right? And then the cancer rate of like French Polynesia, which is pretty freaking remote, Barbados. Like, come on now, it's only like half of it. It's not like they eliminated it completely. So I'm just kind of like bewildered over here. So they do say, according to this, around 40% of cancer cases could be prevented by reducing exposure to cancer risks such as diet, nutrition, physical activity. So are you telling me that the people in freaking French Polynesian aren't eating food that's healthy enough? I mean, Barbados, like, they're pretty much living off their land, and it's not contaminated by a lot of crap compared to like other countries. Where is China on here? Is what? Well, hold up a second. Did I even see China on here? Hold on. Let me control. Oh, look at this! Look at this! Oh my goodness. Okay, hold up a second. Look, I can't even find China on this list. So yeah, okay. There's something a little suspicious here. Cause look, you telling me out of these 50 countries, or China's not even on here. We got the USA on here. We got South Korea on here. We got, where is it? Japan. Japan was here. Japan's over here. Singapore's over here. But no China. And China has a lot of billions of people. So maybe they're not reporting it. Who knows? Who knows? But it's one of those things where I just don't trust. I guess I'm just not trusting. Like, maybe China doesn't want to release the numbers over here. Seriously, China should be up here. Don't tell me that Chinese people don't have any cancer. I've heard all those terrible stories about what the Chinese trying to screw over their own countrymen. They put so much pesticides, fertilizers, and gutter oil stuff. I mean, come on. I know China has to be on here. If frickin' Croatia's on here, China better be on here for cancer rates. But let's look over here. So cancer rates in men, top ones, Australia, New Zealand. What is going on? Like, okay, so France is above the United States. How? I don't get it. I don't get it. And then look, freaking remote areas like Mongolia. Oh my gosh. Cancer rates in women, same thing. Australia, New Zealand. I'm just really shocked. I'm really shocked that the cancer rate isn't dramatically lower in, let's say, Samoa versus Australia. Like, yes, it is significantly lower, but 363 versus, where's Samoa? 217. Zimbabwe, Portugal, Barbados, Argentina. Like, okay, maybe Argentina has more packaged food, but I mean, like, Samoa, I mean, they pretty much live off the land, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, all this stuff is just, oh. So I came across this other article as well. Look at this. Vegetarians have fewer cancers, but higher risk of colorectal cancer. So they say that if you're vegetarian, right, you have 11% lower chance of cancers, but 39% chance higher for colorectal. How the hell does this happen? Like, that is significantly higher. And I don't know about you guys, but like, if I had a cancer, I would not want it anywhere near my digestive system, for sure. So I know that some people will say, oh, it must be because of, I know the carnivore people are going to call it, scream anti-nutrient kind of thing, but freaking, I always thought, like, shouldn't fruits and veggies be protecting you, having some sort of like anti-aging, antioxidant kind of effect? It's really scary to hear that you can be a vegetarian, and I'm not too sure because there are different kind of types of vegetarians. You can eat like processed food vegetarian crap, like like the Gardein or the garden burger kind of stuff, or you can be juicing, so you can just go on this like smoothie diet. But yeah, colorectal cancer, yikes. And that is a significantly higher thing. So being vegetarian, being vegan, being a meat eater, yes, you can have a lower chance of getting cancer as a vegetarian, but the freaking 39% higher for colorectal, yikes. So who knows what causes that. And then I was looking up keto, because you guys know I have a definite soft spot for keto. I feel the best on keto minus my skin issues. So look at this. So can keto diet help fight cancer? They said that, oh, this is so sad. Look at this. Research estimated that an estimated 606,520 Americans will die from cancer in 2020. So 1,600 people are passing away from cancer every day just in America. And yeah, the cancer treatment doesn't seem to have changed in the last 20 years. When my grandma was getting treatment, she was doing things like she was doing radiation and chemotherapy. She was doing holistic stuff. She did surgery, and even then, the cancer was not eliminated. I've been researching and looking into more things. It seems like, yeah, as you get older, you have more increased chance of getting cancer, and it's like I've heard that we have cancer cells within us, but it just, it doesn't, it might not cause that same kind of effect, but yeah, that's what I heard. It's just like once it starts getting out of control, and yeah, I don't want to get too into it, but that's what I was hearing, and it just kind of made me think like, frick, I don't want to end up having a tumor and things like that. So, right. See, so they talk about diet strategies. I've been looking at all sorts of things for like what the best diet for cancer is. People say that if you cut out your sugar, right, and you go on a ketogenic diet, it will starve the cancer cells. And let's see it over here. See? Nearly all cancer cells share the common trait. They feed off carbs or blood sugar in order to grow and multiply. So for people, right, if they're eating a lot of, let's say, bread, pasta, cookies, pizza, that all has rice, right? That all has carbohydrates, goes into your body, converts into sugar, spikes your insulin, and then yeah, you can eat healthy, right? Because everybody thinks like, oh, eating rice is healthy, eating pasta is good, having the whole grain stuff is good, but you could be feeding your cancer cells. And the scary thing about cancer, I've shared with this to you guys before, but a number of people, they don't realize they have cancer until it's like stage 3 or stage 4, and it can be hard to catch it early on if you don't have screening. In fact, someone that I heard about recently, their loved one found out they have cancer, and that's because they had some kind of workplace exposure of sorts, and they get screening, I believe, every 6 months or every year. And they have this one person, right, who does like x-rays of them or some sort of scans around their head area to check that if they have, complications. And for whatever reason, this one time that they did it, they shifted they shifted it a little bit more from where they usually do the scan or so, or this x-ray. And then they found out the person has cancer in the lymph nodes. And yeah, now they're getting treatment, and the person doesn't have any complications, but because it showed up in the scan, they're going to get treatment and things like that. So it's like one of those silent things that just can, like, you don't know what you have unless it's too late. So I always think to myself, like, knowing what I know now, like, that's freaking terrifying over here. So as a result of that, right, I've been trying to like look into my diet and say, okay, what can I do to try and minimize my chances? I'm not saying that I will never get it, but I want to just kind of think like, be mindful about this stuff. So, I've been trying to, I'm on a lower carb diet, but it's not like keto, because I know if I go into keto, at least from past experience, I start getting itchy. I start breaking on keto rash. I've shared it with you guys before. Like, Asian women in particular, you guys can look it up, are susceptible to keto rash, and having keto rash is terrible. Oh my gosh, it really affected my mental state. It affected my mental well-being, and yeah, so so people say that if you cut out your sugar, if you cut out your carbs, then you starve the cancer cells. And yeah, but I think lowering your sugar levels, just my opinion, making sure you don't eat too much crap is the way to go. I'm not saying like do this forever and ever and ever. You can still have a soda if you want, you can still have a cupcake if you want, but just keep it under moderation, sort of thing. And see, that can reduce tumor growth and even starve cancer of energy, but it's hard. It's really hard in my experience to just stay on like a perfect keto diet. I don't have a perfect diet anywhere. But try to reduce that kind of thing. So what is, it's like, oh, just hearing about this stuff, it's like I wish I knew, like, what are these people from these countries, right? What are they doing? What is happening in New Zealand or Hungary or Denmark or Canada that's still or what's going on in the world that it's like people have cancer and you don't see like a marked decrease in any other country except maybe China, because it seems like since they're not on the freaking list, they're at zero, which I highly doubt. But yeah, like freaking, some of these places. Okay, so like Mongolia, like that's weird to me. Like they're ending up with cancer. Oh, so let me read this over here. I'm gonna read chat really quickly. What about India? Oh, is India even here? Frick, India isn't in here, yeah? Yeah, India's not in here. So India's not in here. China's not in here. Big one. I do know India has a lot of pollution in certain areas. Like they don't have clean drinking water or sanitation. So I would imagine, right, you would have cancer there. I imagine that they would be up on the list because of frickin', Poland is over here or some remote area. French Polynesia's over here. Freaking India has to be on this list too. China has to be on this list too. But maybe they're just not reporting it for the World Cancer Research Fund. Mm. Dying for stuff. Yeah, I know that some places, like in some countries, they might not have access to certain screenings, like MRIs. I've heard, like, I've watched documentaries about, let's say, in India, where they have these, like, remote villages, and then for them to go to the doctor for certain things, they need to actually go into a big city. To get those kind of tests, so it's not like in New York, right? It's pretty accessible. We could go somewhere and then go to like a major hospital or something like that. Yeah, there's some remote countries where they don't have this kind of screening, or maybe people die from cancer and then they don't isolate it as cancer. They just call it some unknown disease, because if you don't have, let's say, scans of sorts, you wouldn't know it's really cancer. If it's on the inside and not on the outside, you know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, if you have cancer in your digestive system or in your lungs, if you can't see it, I would imagine that you can't verify that it's cancer or not unless you go get some lab testing or some sort of scans. Oh, MacBook Air is on sale for $899. Okay, I see that. I see that, Sonny. Yeah. Yeah, so gosh, it's just, oh, I don't like this. I don't know. I mean, people all over the world have different kind of diets, and I was hoping by looking at this stuff, I could try to figure out like, okay, well, maybe it seems that there's a link that if you eat a lot of processed foods, you're going to end up with cancer, but some of these areas are so freaking remote, I can't chalk it up to the processed foods thing. So it seems like the best way to do is try to live a healthy lifestyle. The generic, exercise. Have a healthy weight. But as I've mentioned and I've told you guys before, my uncle was exercising every day. He was very fit. If you saw him, you would know that he clearly exercises, and he ended up with a lot of cancer in his body. He had a tumor the size of an orange, I think, on his kidney. So for someone to exercise and end up with cancer, right, that big, a tumor that big, that is horrific to me. And it's like, I think like, okay, so exercise is not completely the answer. And as far as I know, right, he didn't have a bad diet. Like, I'm sure he ate carbs, and I'm sure he ate, not so great things, but it was less than, I would say, the average American. He was not obese. He definitely was not overweight, and he definitely had muscle tonnage. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I hope one day there is a cure for cancer. I wish I got closer to figuring out, like, oh, well, how can you reduce your risk? But it seems the only thing that I can pick up is reduce your exposure to chemicals, exercise. Hopefully, that makes your body stronger, and then try to cut down the sugar intake, whether it be carbs or processed sugars, for sure. But Yeah, it's a little depressing to kind of see this thing. I was hoping that it'll be a lot more clear cut in terms of a diet, but you see all these different things. Other people will say, "Oh, eat, go vegetarian, and then if you go vegetarian, you won't have cancer." Nope, vegetarians still have cancer. They like I mentioned over here, right? They have a 39% higher chance of colorectal. So friggin' more vegetables does not necessarily mean no cancer. And I worry because it's like I just worry because it's like, well, what is it? I've heard people say that if you eat more garlic, then that will heavily reduce the chances of you getting cancer or the treatment. But then I've also read stories where they say a person's mom ate tons of turmeric, tons of garlic, led a healthy lifestyle. They made sure they ate a lot of turmeric and garlic, and they ended up passing away from cancer. So it's like, frick, it's like you can reduce your chances, but don't hold on to turmeric and garlic being your answer over here. It could be other things. It could be, let's say, fumes. It could be pesticides. It could be air pollution. It could be living near some sort of factory, right? And or exposing yourself to something that you don't realize it's poisoning you. It's just like you hear about all this stuff, right? Like, I don't want to get into like asbestos or something like that, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's just frick. Where's all this stuff coming from? Don't know. Is diet the answer? I would say partially, but I don't know if I really believe in this whole thing where they say 40% of cancers could be prevented by working on your diet, nutrition, and physical activity. Because if that was the case, or again, if that was the case, my uncle would not have had as bad cancer as he did, because he did, in my opinion, everything right. His physical fitness, his diet was a lot higher than like the rest of the family. So it's just like frick. He thought he did everything right. Everybody assumed he was doing everything right. And yeah, if you saw him compared to the rest of my family members, you would say like that guy is like the healthiest one out of everybody. It's just, yeah, like he looked like he took care of himself. He did take care of himself, and yeah, it's just like I look about this cancer stuff. It's just like frick. I don't know. Yeah, salt, sugar. I don't know. That's a thing because like I hear the Koreans eat a lot of like salty, spicy foods. They love instant noodles. So does the Japanese. But I think South Korea is like the number one, and South Korea is like freaking number 14 over here, right? Like, how does freaking Netherlands and Norway have a higher cancer rate than South Korea if we're gonna go with diet? And I think that and this is just my opinion over here. I think I heard right, Norway or the Netherlands have a much higher level of happiness compared to other countries. So you would think they would be on the bottom of this list, not up here. Like Iceland, Iceland is over here, Poland's over here. I mean, how does freaking Singapore end up all the way down here and then this remote area like Iceland is up here? Maybe the Icelandic people are eating. I don't know. It's just like I think that's such a. It's not like it's heavily pesticided out or anything. I think these places are pretty remote. I think they're very quite pristine. So you would think that it wouldn't be a pollution thing, but maybe they're eating. I don't know. Who knows what it is? Yeah, so lots of factory work in South Korea, lots of exposure and carcinogens. Yeah, so but why is South Korea 14 and then let's say New Zealand up here? I mean, or Netherlands or Norway, right? Why are they below here? That doesn't make sense to me. And look at this, the UK as a whole. The UK over here is at 319. Just like, oh. Luxembourg 309, they're only just like barely behind South Korea. All these countries, like I said, I really thought I would have seen the industrialized nations. I thought I would have seen United States as like number 2. or India is like, you know, all the heavily polluted places, India, China, United States is like one, two, three or so. But when I see this kind of stuff, it really saddens me. And New Zealand being number two, that really sad. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people in Australia and New Zealand smoke a lot of cigarettes, but I'm sure this is happening in South Korea. In South Korea and Japan, people smoke cigarettes too. Thailand, where is that? I don't see Thailand. We never saw China in here either. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see Vietnam in here either. So there's like 150 countries and we just got 50 over here. But the ones that did report, right? The ones that did report, it seems that Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Hungary, and USA is over here. So USA being on the top 5 does not surprise me. But it being number 5 out of top 5 is surprising to me. Because I don't see places that I normally would associate would be higher pollution. But, yeah. I would think that the food quality in Hungary, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia is much higher than the stuff people typically eat in the United States. But I could be wrong. You know, why is that? Why is that? Truly, truly surprising. I know this sounds, look at this, colorectal cancer statistics. Remember this one? They said vegetarians are third most common. What is the most common cancer? Let's see. Bladder cancer is number 1, maybe? 10th most? I don't know what. Worldwide cancer data. Let's look at this. Okay, lung cancer. So I remember I read somewhere that someone wanted to smoke. Don't frickin' smoke cigarettes, you guys. See? So lung cancer, then breast cancer, then colorectal. Oh, look at that. Yikes. So if the top 3 is lung, breast, and colorectal, and vegetarians have a 39% higher increase of colorectal cancer, yeah, that's actually a common cancer. Yikes. I never realized that. I always thought something like kidney cancer would be up there. So my mom's mom, died from a brain tumor. And where are we here? Here we go. 17. So only 1.7. And I'm just saying this because this is what I was, you know, they wonder where the cancer starts. So she had a brain tumor, and then my uncle, his cancer started from kidney, I believe. So we're looking at 14. So 14 and 17. Oh, that's, look at this. Percent of all cancers. Brain tumor, 1.7%. I'm assuming this is what they're referring to where it started. Kidney is only 2.47%. But freaking lung, 12.3%. Breast, 12.3%. No wonder why we see all those ads about, like, don't smoke or get mammograms and things like that. See? That makes sense. Because freaking almost 25% of cancers, total, right? 12.3 is lung and breast. So 2 million people were diagnosed with about 2 million, let's just round up, lung, breast, and colorectal cancer each. Two in 2018. Very, very sad. Let's see, like, cancer survival statistics. Yeah, so 1 year stage. What is this? US. Frickin', what is NL? Netherlands? Okay. 5-year survival rate. So they just tell you the top prostate, breast, colorectal, lung. Look at the lung cancer. Yikes. Once it starts going into your lungs, you're kind of screwed. And I don't mean to say that in a very callous way, but that's what it kind of shows. And then let's see over here. Lung cancer. Most commonly cancer worldwide. Oh, wow, look at that. Hungary. Are they smoking a lot of cigarettes here that I'm not aware of? See that? French Polynesia. Remember I was talking about French Polynesia? North Korea. Okay, North Korea. I guess they smoke a lot. Okay, finally China pops up over here as number 16. So it seems like frickin' Samoa has a higher chance of lung cancer than the US? What? That is weird. That is weird. See this? Age standardized rate. What does that mean? You're getting it when you're 70, 56 years old or something? Right? Age standardized rate? Or am I assuming it wrong? Yeah. Yeah, let's see over here. You know what though? Yeah, I don't. I used to eat that kind of like high sodium frozen food meals. They're actually not good because I don't feel like mentally. I don't want to say mentally stable, but I just don't feel mentally right if I eat too much of that. Those dinners. I don't know if it's the sodium levels or what, because the sodium levels tend to be off the chart. But I tend to stay away from a lot of frozen food for sure. But yeah, look at this stuff. Let's see. Cancer trends. Can I make this freaking thing bigger? See? Yeah, so colorectal cancer, that's your digestive organs, right? That's your intestines, I'm assuming. And yeah, what is going on with the vegetarian diet that they have 39% higher chance? It's like you would think that yeah, it shouldn't cause any issues with the organs, but who knows? Maybe it's causing inflammation. I have heard about some people having inflammation if they eat too much of a certain thing. I don't know. That's just my speculation over here. Gallbladder. Oh. So the scary thing about cancer is like I don't focus on just like one thing, but it's like once this thing starts spreading and it metastasizes. So for instance, right? Let's say you have colorectal cancer, it spreads into your gallbladder, it spreads into your liver, spreads into your kidney, spreads into your lungs. It is so much harder to treat. So when I hear about this stuff, I just think like, frick, you don't want to have cancer, period. Period. Your pancreas. See, your pancreas and everything is all like basically next door neighbors. So yeah, if it's like metastasized, which is a very high chance. I think if you're not getting screening, it will metastasize, and then you'll end up with like all over your body. That's when you have to do, let's say, surgery, chemotherapy. Chemotherapy does the whole body, right? Radiation, from what I've been reading, tends to be targeted. So if you just have, let's say, a big tumor in your head, you'll get radiation for your head, but they don't radiate the whole body because of cost. And then surgery, right? It's like if the cancer is so extensive, they might say like we don't want to cut you all up and remove all the cancer and all these organs because the body has to recover. So not only is the cancer cells like multiplying in the body, but if you cut someone up, they have to recover from the wounds as well, and that can lead to complications. So I've been looking at all sorts of stuff about cancer. I've been looking at, for instance, I was looking at like autopsies, and I know people would say that's really graphic, Erica, but I wanted to understand like if a person has cancer and you see the organs inside and you see like the cancer like nodes or growths in their kidneys or in their liver, it's like freaking disturbing because it's like you see a normal organ and then when they splice it into pieces, it's like you see cancer, 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 or it's like some organs, right, they have like a lot of inflammation in there. And then when I was looking at it, I thought to myself like, how the hell do you treat this stuff, right? How do you treat it when it's like an organ looks like it's so in such terrible condition? And then you also don't have just that organ, but you have other organs as well. Very, very disturbing stuff. I would say that, yeah, I would almost say, like, I wish that people could just, depending on what they have, they can, and I know this is going to sound really ignorant, but I wish that it's like, I wish that some of these people who have cancer can just go on an organ transplant list, and then they say, you know what, let's just cut out the cancer ridden organ and put the new organ in. But the organ transplant list is quite lengthy, and a lot of people have cancer, so you don't have enough organs to go around to treat the second leading cause of death. If a lot of people have, let's say, a need of lungs, or they have, a lot of cancer in their pancreas, that kind of stuff, it's like you would be replacing tons of organs. But yeah, just being aware of that kind of stuff is really something. So yeah, I was looking at you can watch some autopsy videos on YouTube, and I was looking at that yesterday, and I was just thinking, like, oh my gosh, some people, it's like they have, like, you can see that they have a lot of inflammation in their digestive system, and they got bleeding in there too. And this is when they were looking at the organs, and I thought, holy crap, that person must have been in so much pain, having internal bleeding. And then some people, I see that they have like colonoscopy bags, and oh my gosh, it's just freaking terrible. Yeah, it was just really disturbing for some of this stuff. Like I feel comfortable looking at a number of autopsies, but I actually take a sincere interest in it, but not everything. Because sometimes it's like you see things, and it's just like you see what looks to be, necrosis or something, of certain organs, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like one thing to read about that stuff, and it's one thing to read or hear about that stuff, but when you actually see like disease looking organs, you think, holy crap, that I don't know how you would treat it when it gets really ugly looking like that. And yeah, and then there was some organs that I saw, like, you see it has like all these like, cancer on them. It's like you don't even know where to go, right? It's like, what do? You just say, you hit radiation over and over and over for like all over the body. Kind of disturbing stuff. I would not recommend looking at autopsies if you are squeamish, but there are certain things on YouTube if you do want to see. But I would suggest, don't eat or drink while you're looking at this stuff, because it's like when you see certain images, or when you see them like doing certain things, it's like, yikes. Not good, not good at all. But yeah, learning experience. And I really feel bad for people who have cancer, who goes through cancer, who has palliative care, hospice care, because you can see that they just like they 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 start losing a lot of weight. They become malnourished, and then they're in a lot of pain. It's hard for them. And like I said, cancer doesn't seem like the treatment has really advanced too much. Just my opinion, because it's still the same freaking thing: radiation, chemo, surgery. But yeah, just knowing that so many people in the world are affected with cancer, it makes me very, very sad. And I feel really ignorant, because I've always known about cancer, but I didn't realize how prevalent it was out there. Because it's like you hear about like people having breast cancer, but unless you look at the data and you see certain things, you're thinking like, wow, that actually is quite a bit of people. Like, and people dying, and it's not like they immediately die. It's very hard on like loved ones, because they'll start seeing stages, right? They'll have hope that they're going to get better, and we all, everybody hopes they get better. But then if they start declining and it spreads, because you got some cancers that I've seen videos on YouTube where people document their cancer journey, and then within 3 weeks they're in like really surprisingly bad shape, and it's like, what the hell happened in 3 weeks? And they're getting treatment, but it's like the cancer just becomes more and more aggressive, or it's like the treatment, it's like it works, but it, for whatever reason, the cancer just has this like, it just becomes stronger, it seems. So that's the thing that really surprises me, because it's like, how can you get this kind of medication, how can you get this kind of treatment, and it's like you think if you're getting treatment for something it will get better, but then it actually gets worse. Like going to the doctor, right? You go to the doctor for colds, or I shouldn't use a cold, but let's say you have like some kind of viral bug or something, like stomach issues, right? Like you ate something wrong. Oh, okay, that's a bad example, but let's say you have some sort of flu or something, and then you tell them like, hey, I'm not feeling so well, I have like yeah, sinus issues, then you expect whatever they give you, you'll get better. But can you imagine? It's like you get worse and worse and worse and worse, and you're taking all this medication. It's really sad. So, yeah, I pray and I hope that none of you guys have cancer. I hope that your loved ones don't have cancer. But if you guys do end up having cancer, or your loved ones have cancer, like I've said it before and I'll say it again, spend as much time as you can with your loved ones, because you don't want to make that assumption that, oh, they you should have a sizable amount of time because you're told that there's a good chance they will make it. Knowing what I know now, and I know people say hindsight is 2020, but knowing what I know now, about cancer, and hearing about the details about my uncle, if I really think that it's like, the reality is like, I wish there was a talk like, hey, you know what, most likely not gonna get better, but we're gonna see. I remember distinctively when I got the news from my dad that my uncle had cancer. The news is that the doctor said that he had a pretty good chance of survival. Knowing, right? And I remember I was thinking, like, how does he have a pretty good chance of survival? I heard it was spread all over. I heard that he had bone cancer, but okay, if the doctor says he has a pretty good chance of survival, then I'll assume that with the treatment, it should be treatable. I had zero, like I said, I had zero idea that he only had a couple months to live. Knowing what I know now, right? It's like hearing how the details about how spread his cancer was, like I would have assumed that, but I didn't know that, because it's like hearing something coming from a doctor saying, oh, we think he has a pretty good chance of survival, makes you kind of think time is on your family side. And yeah, it's not a rush. So although I was praying and I thought, oh, okay, he's getting treatment, everything should be fine, should be like my grandma. It's 20 years since my grandma passed away, so I'm sure everything will be okay. Maybe I'll have some rough patches, but I didn't know any better. So that's why you see me do these kind of streams, because I don't want anyone to be in like my family situation where, like, you think that, yeah, you have a lot of time, and you think like, oh, okay, things will be okay. And I'm not saying don't have hope, but I'm saying that you need to look at the statistics and say, okay, you know what, most likely odds can be stacked against, and make every moment count, for sure. And yeah, but I was, I feel, I guess, lucky in a sense that, I was able to talk to him over the phone. And like I said, I couldn't understand what he said, and I know it hurt him, because even though I couldn't understand him, like hearing his tone of voice, like he was trying to talk to me, and I remember that I had to, like, he was saying something. I said, oh, can you say that again? I couldn't hear you. And he said something, and then I said, I'm sorry, uncle, I can't understand you. I heard his voice, and it was just like, it was kind of taken aback, like shocked, like, oh, that kind of thing. And it really hurt me, because I knew he could understand what I'm saying, but I can't understand what he's saying. And yeah, it saddens me, because it's like, I just kind of think like, it must be so painful to realize, like, yes, you can't communicate with your family. And yeah, so that's why I've said many, many times, like, yeah, if you know anybody with cancer, if you yourself goes with cancer, spend as much time as you can with your loved ones. Reach out to them, show your support, because you don't know how long they have to live. And I pray that everybody who has cancer recovers, but cancer is such a piece of, it's so terrible that, and it's so painful for family to see. So I wasn't there in Hawaii as, he was having his battle. But yeah, and then also I shared it with you guys, but when I heard the news, I was thinking like, oh, let me go visit him at the hospital, let me go over to Hawaii. And I was told that because of, the situation, only one person can see him a day at the hospital. So I thought, okay, he has a bunch of siblings, bunch of family over there, just, it's more important for them. And yeah, that kind of thing. But I didn't keep in touch, so I didn't know that he was, he was staying. I could have seen him if I went to Hawaii and I went to visit him when my one of my relatives was taking care of him, kind of thing. And yeah, I lost track of time. I assumed everything was okay, and hearing that, hey, they're gonna get treatment, oh, in good hands around families, and just made that assumption. And yeah, it's one of those. Like I said, I don't have very many regrets in life, but I do wish I went back to Hawaii, and I do wish that I was more mindful. And I guarantee you, 1,000%, if I know anybody else, like in my family or close friends that have cancer and I found out about it, I would go on a plane and see them, because that's like, I wouldn't assume that they would be okay with cancer treatment, even if doctors say, oh, we feel like they have a pretty good chance of survival, we got a treatment plan out for them. I would still see them, because I would say, I can't be guaranteed about certain things at all. So yeah, yeah, so that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, you get radiation even when you go through TSA, right? You go through those TSA screening things. Yeah, that's what I've heard. So for the future says eat well, exercise, maintain healthy weight, get checkups, check for things, avoid chemicals. I mean, that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people are mindful of that. We don't stay around, let's say, inhaling toxic fumes, right? When we see it, we try to avoid that. And if people are exposed to that, hopefully they have some sort of face mask on them. Mm, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, life quality, making sure every day counts, or life quality is extremely important. But it saddens me when people's lives are cut short. That's what it comes down to. Like, when they're really good people, and when they work hard and they just like live a really good life, like basically the opposite of Eugene, the contractor, that Eugene. And then finding out that someone that you love and someone that you care for passed away from cancer, which is a horrific disease. It just makes you think, like, okay, you can't do anything to bring them back, but on this planet, right, on this plane. But what can you do? What can you do to try and lessen your chances of getting cancer, or what can you do to try and avoid it? Because, like, 100%, like, I don't want this happening to anybody that I know. Because it's like a terrible freaking disease. And yeah, it's like people on, like, I read certain things like on Reddit, and then you read about people's struggles with this kind of stuff, and a lot of people, they could be in severe pain, but of course, they're not documenting this stuff. You don't see this on YouTube. So I feel like a lot of the times when you see cancer documentaries or so, it kind of seems like they're passing away peacefully. It seems like, okay, you ended up with cancer, and then you go through chemo radiation, and it takes out of you, and maybe you're tired, and then maybe you know what I'm saying, like, you can't understand the amount of pain that they're going through, because like, you don't see it, and then, or they don't really speak of it. It just kind of looks peaceful. Or you see them intubated, and they just kind of like look out, and then you can see that they're dying, and then you find out at the end, like, oh, the person died. It's like, oh, okay, well, they passed away. But yeah, hearing certain details about people where they say they got a biopsy done, they had to get a biopsy done, and just it felt like an apple core was going through their arm. That kind of, like, that's horrific stuff. Yeah, it's like, And I really hope that people don't assume, or people don't think like it's like if you get cancer it's like pain free, or it's like you'll go gently without any sort of issues, because there's a lot of dignity lost, depending on what your complications are. And again, people will not document this kind of stuff. They'll talk about it, and then you'll see them kind of, putting on a strong face, but they won't really get into, let's say, detail, especially when you see people like in hospice care, right? They'll usually, like, I've seen the YouTube videos where they talk about it and they say like, oh, I'm always feeling tired, or I feel like, I'm like I'm a little achy, that kind of stuff. And then you get that word that said, oh, they passed away like 4 days later. It's like, okay, it's not as, it might not be as gentle depending on the cancer. And then yeah, I'm sure those people in hospice care have a lot of medication, but again, depending on what kind of cancer you have, like if you have bone cancer, like freaking fentanyl patches, morphine might not help you at all. It's really bad. It's really bad, and it's made me a lot more aware. Like, hey, what people need to know about this stuff for sure. Yeah. Wow, flying private is about the same price as business? Dang. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard about, I was watching this one autopsy where someone had some sort of like issue, and then they thought they had back pain or something. I don't know. So I'm missing some details here. But it wasn't until after they did the autopsy that they realized the person had cancer. So yeah, something like that. It's like, okay. But I would also say, like, if I, and I know like some people might, I'm like, I don't know if having an autopsy is like 100%, uh the family has to have an autopsy if someone passes away. I think some people can decline an autopsy, but I would actually recommend, like, if you have a loved one and they pass away, like, get an autopsy done, because it's very important to just kind of know, like, hey, why did this person specifically pass away? But I've heard like anything that's like an unattended death does need to get an autopsy, and then from there, they're able to tell you about like condition of organs. And yeah, kind of squeamish, but it's good to know, like, if someone died unexpectedly, like, why did they die, for sure. So yeah, but there's some certain things about like autopsies that I've been watching, I'm like, oh god, that's so gross. I could never be a medical examiner for sure, because it's like I see certain things, like when you see like organs and things like that. It's like, oh god. Like, it's one thing to see it open up, but it's like imagining, like, I know this is gonna sound graphic, but like imagining doing those incisions and stuff, like, oh no, 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 no. But I have a lot of respect for medical examiners or pathologists, or people who try to like get answers, or they show people like, hey, this is what happened to a person who had like this sort of disease, or this is what happened to a person when they had like a botched surgery. And yeah, like maybe they have a botched surgery, and then something goes wrong, they end up with a huge infection, and then it isn't caught, and then the doctor or the hospital can get sued for, I think it's called malpractice or so. So yeah, but I would never have the freaking stomach to do that kind of stuff myself. I mean, like, even when I watch these things, it has to be like in limited amounts, because after a while you see it and you're like, ooh. But there is a fascination with certain things, because it's like people, they say, oh, like they can see like certain things about the brain, or they splice the brain up, and then they say, hey, you can see that there's something going on over here, kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I really think autopsies are really important to do. It's not, like some people might be thinking like, oh, it could be, bad for their loved ones, but it can provide a lot of answers, a lot of closure. I really, and I know I probably won't be able to see it, but I really want to see my uncle's chart because, and I don't think I'm going to be able to see it because of HIPAA, but I really am curious to see how bad the cancer was and how, how much of it was, because like I've seen some really bad cancer charts, and just hearing like the certain details, like if I, like I'm just curious to know, like when it was picked up, like how bad was the cancer. I know it was all over, but it's one thing to see it and to hear about it, and it's another thing to see it as well. Kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard about that alkaline diet. There's all sorts of diets. I know, it's keto diet, alkaline diet. Some people say fasting, intermittent fasting helps. Some people say, like, take garlic pills and you'll be okay. I don't know. I have no idea. But whatever the case is, like I said, I just hope you guys don't have cancer. I hope you guys are okay, and hope you guys live a very long life. But good to be mindful about this kind of stuff because it is around, and chances are you will know someone in your life who has cancer. And my hope by making this kind of stream is just that, just to remind you guys, like, don't take for granted how long you have with them at all. Reach out to them, and yeah, because you don't know how fast things can take a turn for the worse. Yeah, and yeah, it's just like, it's not good. It's not good. But I think a lot of people, as people get older, as I get older, I'll know more and more people with cancer, and I think that, just like I'm saying right now, because I don't see any medical advances happening within the next 5 to 10 years, that it's going to be, huge. That's just, maybe I'm being really pessimistic about it. But I think that depending on when cancer is found, I think that I will think back and think like, man, this is really when you just hope and you pray and you hope that they make it out okay. But if they don't make it out okay, then, just definitely communicate to them that you're there for them, and just spend as much time as you can with them, kind of thing. But yeah, so yeah, get the PET scan. I don't know, like that's some HIPAA stuff, right? And like I was looking about HIPAA, it's like the freaking health privacy things last 50 years after death. I really don't think I'm gonna be 80 something years old and looking into that too. I mean, I would have to ask, but it's like asking for those kind of scans. I don't know if it'll be granted, because then it could be like, oh, so why do you want to see the scans now? It's like, well, I thought everything was under control. I didn't get any phone call saying, hey, it's looking really, really, really bad. Come to Hawaii, kind of thing. But it's good to I think see certain things, to be aware of it. And yeah, family back in Hawaii definitely saw all those scans. And I was speaking to one relative, and I remember they mentioned something along the lines of, there was so much cancer they didn't understand how my uncle was alive. So for them to say that kind of stuff tells me like it was really bad, really, really bad. But yeah, one thing to hear about it, another thing to see it. And yeah, I kind of, yeah, this is like one of those things where you just want to like ask, you want to talk to the doc. Like, I personally want to talk to the doctor and say, I know you have HIPAA stuff and things like that, but you know do you think that, do you think it just took a turn for the worse, or was this really just like the natural cancer thing where the cancer is so bad that even if you treat it, even if you're in the middle of chemotherapy, it just advances too much. I think this is just my speculation here, but hearing that he went into a coma, and this is, like I said, this is just my speculation. I think what happened is that the cancer was just advancing too much in his bones, and then it started leaking out calcium. And then from there, right, it's like, how the frick do you stop that? How do you stop something from progressing when you're giving someone everything that there's available, which is radiation and chemo? You can't. So that's one of those things. I just think like, man, you go through chemotherapy and then the cancer's still, yeah, halfway through chemotherapy, and it still wins. that's really horrifying, because you never think that, yeah, when you're in the middle of treatment, I always thought like if you get in the middle of treatment or anything, like it would automatically stop. I wouldn't think like, yeah, the cancer's still chugging along, but that just tells you about how much I know about how cancer works, right? Like if you are, let's say, trying to eradicate something, you would say like, okay, maybe it'll be at a standstill. It's not like it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse. But I don't know if his body was failing at that point. I don't know if it's like the chemotherapy was working, but it was just indiscriminately just destroying everything. And I don't know. I have no idea. I can't answer that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's proxy. I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm gonna ask about that. I know it could be considered insensitive, like you want to know this information, but I truly want to see it. I really want to see like what was going on, like the charts, and it's really of no use because he passed away. But just to kind of be aware of that stuff and just say like, wow, it's like all this stuff was going on. And I know that, yeah, I know that he really was optimistic about stuff, but the freaking cancer, that was terrible. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard about that too, India. 38. Oh my gosh. That's so sad. Yeah. So, I knew someone else who I didn't know them personally, but it was like a coworker. Um it was like a mom, and I think she was in her 30s or her early 40s. I know she was like, I think she was 35 or 37 or 43. I can't remember, but it was around that age range. And she ended up with cancer, spread to her bones, had to get a part of her bone removed, and she adapted a whole freaking like vegan diet with tons of juicing, and she still passed away from it. So like that tells you, right? Like frick, you can change your diet and like try to eat much healthier and be on a strict thing, but yeah, cancer can still win. It's just like, what do people do? And I remember when I heard that, right? That was the thing that made me aware about bone cancer. That was like I heard that a couple years ago. But yeah, so yeah. But that's also when you saw my stream about me talking about when my uncle got cancer, right? I remember hearing about that woman, and I remember they said like, yeah, the bone cancer just eats away at the bone. That's why I got really scared, because I thought like, frick, stage 4, metastasize sounds really bad. Bone cancer makes me think like, okay, bone will probably have to be removed. And yeah, but that just hearing what the doctor said, right? Oh, I feel like he is a good chance, a pretty good chance, and they were very hopeful about stuff like that. Just yeah, it just made me kind of think like not be so pessimistic, and I thought being hopeful, because I never saw the chart, but yeah, I kind of wish like if I had gotten a copy of the chart and then just asked people like, what do you think? Do you think this is actually treatable, or do you think this is not treatable? Or what do you think the life expectancy is with this kind of cancer? That would have made me a little bit more aware about, let's say, timing, and not just think, oh, okay, I think everything's gonna be okay. Yeah, there isn't much you can do. A lot of it, it's just like someone has to go through treatment, and you really pray and you really hope for the best. But yeah, like that's what it comes down to. It's just really putting your trust in like the drugs that are out there, the radiation that's out there, surgery option. Surgery was not an option for him. That's what the doctor said. They didn't want to perform surgery. And yeah, the thing that really sickened me though, and I'll say this, I said this before, is like I was told that they asked like, how come you can't do more treatment, and then one of the things that were cited was costs. They said it was very expensive, and I just when I heard about this is after he passed away. I just thought to myself like, are you freaking kidding me? Like really? Like really, you have, and a person has insurance, and you're gonna say like, oh, we can't do more because of the cost. It's like I've always thought like you can get more treatment, but it's just like, can you handle it? that's how ignorant I am about the medical system, right? Because it's like I've never been in that kind of situation. I've never known anybody else to be in that kind of situation. And it's just like, if I had to put myself in that situation, and then if I was going through cancer or something like that, like, knock on some wood, um, and I found myself in that situation and I heard, oh, yeah, you have really bad cancer, right? Or you have aggressive cancer, your cancer spread all over, but we can't hit it with all this radiation as you want because partially, because of cost, because it's so expensive. I would have been pissed off for sure. I would have thought, like, what the hell, man? So what? It's just like, there's only a certain cap, and then it says, like, okay, well, good luck. Hope you make it. If you don't, oh well. It's just so callous and cold. So yeah, that's what saddens me a lot. But yeah, when I heard that, I was like, what? There's a freaking cap on cost? Are you serious? So it's just, I think the people who really suffer though, right, at the end of the day, like, even though I'm pissed off about it still, are the people who are going through that kind of pain. The people who want the best chance of survival. And I think it's really terrible where people are fighting for their lives, and then the family says, okay, that really worked really well, let's do more of it. And then it's like, okay, yeah, no, we can't radiation the whole body kind of thing. So that's like, it's, yeah, that to me is like really really hurtful, because it's like you hear that kind of good news, like, hey, you don't have cancer in this area anymore because of the radiation. Oh, by the way, it's expensive, so yeah, we can't do that anymore, we're just gonna put you on chemo. So that just sucked. And like I said, I'm sure other people have heard this kind of thing too. And as the time, it's like you hear that kind of stuff, it makes you want to just go off to, let's say, freaking Canada or something, right? And just say, screw it, just get the treatment over there. Maybe you won't get shafted over there. But freaking, air transport, for instance, can be really expensive. I heard recently um, that someone had to be airlifted from Texas to, I think, Seattle, and just air transport alone came out to $67,000. I'm like, freaking, what the hell is air transport $67,000 for? Like, is it really, really that freaking expensive? It is. And I don't know how much insurance covered that too, but freaking ridiculous. So all these people, if they have to get airlifted to another hospital out of state, that thing costs big money. Just because you have insurance, don't think it's like everything's covered. So yeah, well, so Sonia says, if I find cancer, I'm selling, giving away a thing for my family. Yeah, I can tell you straight up, like, if I had cancer, I would do the same thing. It would be a race against the clock kind of thing. And I pray to God, nobody here, nobody has cancer that I know, including myself. But, it's like, I would just think, like, you know what, you wish for this best, but knowing that most likely your only option would be surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, not looking too good. Once it metastasizes, it seems like kind of screwed, especially when it gets into the bone. And if it gets into your bone and you can't treat the whole thing all over, I imagine a person would feel pretty powerless, because yeah, it's like your bones would be hurting so badly, and it's not uncommon for people to get bone cancer, because the cancer spreads, right? So it goes into, like, it can go into the lungs, it can go into, let's say, your digestive organs, and then it can go into your bones, because the cancer cells move, and they're not going to care where the hell they latch off to. So yeah, yeah, and I also think, like I've always said this, right? Like, you got to think about a person's quality of life, and just I've always been in support for death with dignity, but for people with, like, cancer, right? If they're in a lot of pain, I would say, 100%, 100%, got to have that option for those people, because it's like, if they're in so much pain and pain medication can't help them, why are you keeping them alive? If they don't have a will, so the will to live, kind of thing. Yeah, so that's what happened with my uncle. It got into his bones. I don't know where it got into his bones, but he was hurting all over. And it's like, I wish people spoke more about I really wish that people spoke more about bone cancer than just breast cancer. Like, I know this is going to sound so insensitive, but when I think about breast cancer, I think, okay, you have cancer. Yes, your breasts, you can lose your breast, right? But as a person, right, that's all you hear about, right? You hear about people getting these, like, they have to get their breast removed, and then they have, they feel like they're lacking, right? But like freaking bone cancer, it's like you can't make the pain go away, kind of thing. It's just like eating away your bone, disintegrating your bone. In my opinion, I know this is gonna sound really insensitive, but the pain from bone cancer, from what I'm seeing, it's just like it's absolutely horrific. So I would like to see more people talk about bone cancer, in addition to breast cancer as well, because it's like you don't. I like I said, I've always thought like cancer. If you watch any of those documentaries, it sounds like you go through the struggle. You sound like, yes, maybe you have trouble breathing and you're in a little pain or a lot of pain, but it's like once you get like the visuals of what's happening to the bone, freaking disturbing stuff. And it's not unusual for, if you end up having cancer, for it to spread into your breast, your lungs, your kidneys, your bones. But yeah, just like we need to have more focus on bone cancer, in my opinion. And I think if more people were aware of bone cancer, then they would say, frick, cancer is really freaking terrible. Yeah, I've seen that too. Um, I've seen that as well, where people end up with it. Yeah, it looks like these cysts on their bodies because the cancer is like popping out of their body. I'm like, oh my freaking gosh. It's just, yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad, and it's like there's this one guy named Pee Wee Toms of sorts, and he talks about having cancer, and he shows himself, I think, like 4 days before he passed away, and he says it looks like he has like a third nipple. And yeah, it's actually cancer. And I was like, holy crap, the cancer's trying to get out of his body. Oh my gosh. It's not just in his organs, it wants to move outwards. And it just, yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. It really saddened me because it's like you can see the way he documented on YouTube, where he was looking so healthy, and then he had hope, and then it just like he he loses hope because he says like it's terminal at this point. He's just gonna have to go to hospice care, and then the last shot you see of him, you can tell he's definitely a dying man. It was only about, I think, 4 weeks, after the previous video, and it's just sad. It's really really sad to see. And I think a lot of people, when they do those streams or when they do those recorded videos, they try to preserve their dignity, which is completely understandable. But it's like you see this kind of stuff, and it's like it's hard for people to understand like the level of pain that they're going through, what exactly they lost as a result of this kind of stuff. Like, to be able to, let's say, run, or just be able to walk from one side of, let's say, the one side of the place that they're living in to the other side. Like, we take that for granted. And you lose your mobility, that kind of stuff. It's just terrible. Oh my gosh. Wow. That is something. It must have been, really comforting though, looking back, right? Because it's like some people, like, they have doubts about the afterlife, or they think that it doesn't really happen. I firmly believe in the afterlife. 100% I believe in it. I believe that there is another plane of existence. We can't see them, but it doesn't make it any, how do I say it? Like, it doesn't make it easier. Like, when you think about them, I was reading some things that was shared, about how my uncle lived, and I was just like, even today, like, I was just crying because I thought, like, man, this person was so good. Just a really good person. And yeah, it kind of made me think, like, yeah, I gotta, you know I gotta like try to aspire to be a better person, because it's like seeing like a person like that live, and then seeing like reflecting it on myself, I kind of think like, man, yeah, there needs to be more people like that in the world. I mean, I'm not gonna lose like who I am, but it's just like the way that my uncle was, he was so loving and caring. That's the thing that I always remember, and it's just like always like family first kind of thing. And it's important, right? Because at the end of it, what you have, what you hold on to, what you can, what I think, what people bring with them into the afterlife is their memories. And yeah, it's like all the stuff that you have with you doesn't really matter at the end of it. But not saying like be a total minimalist or get rid of all your stuff, but just know what's really important in life. It's not the materialistic things. It's the people. It's the people. It's the relationships, and it's each other. You know, we were put on this earth not to just get like the latest BMW or something like that. We were put on this earth in my opinion, make a difference, and be there for one another. Like, and yeah, I'm not saying like everybody has to have good relations with their family, but the people that they're around, try and make the world a better place. Yeah, yeah. So Sonia, like it's very touching that your dad went to see you, and he came to you in a dream, because that says that when he passed away, he thought about you, right? That's really something. And not a lot of people have that. I've never had that kind of thing in my life, where someone came to me in a dream. Actually, no, I take that back. I did have my mom appear to me in a dream after she passed away, but yeah, it was yeah, that was something. But yeah, just like that kind of love, or that kind of, like I'm in another place but I'm still thinking of you. Like, I know you hold on to it, but other people have to hold on to it too, because it's like you don't people don't realize like how lucky they are to have, family members or loved ones in their life, and it's not going to hit them until about how much that person did, or how that person really lived, until they're gone. Um, and then when they're gone, you kind of look back and you say, wow, I didn't realize like how incredible of a person they were. So yeah, my uncle, my mom, they were really genuine people. Even my grandma was a really genuine person. And yeah, I remember reading something about, someone saying that my uncle, right? He, like, nobody could say anything bad about him. He was just like he was just a really warm and friendly and kind person through and through. And I realized, I was like, yeah, I can't think of a single bad thing about my uncle at all. He was very patient, very kind, very loving, very funny, very, very intelligent, but in a very, like, if you had seen him on the street kind of thing, you would know, you would pick up like, yeah, this guy's like a really kind of like a Hawaiian sunshine of sorts. Like a friendly person, genuinely a good person. But always focused on family. Couldn't wait to see us um, when he did see us, and that kind of stuff. And I feel like, well, I really took that kind of stuff for granted. And yeah, here I am, thinking about, as stupidly as it is, right? I was thinking like, oh my gosh, you've heard me talk about it too, like the flight from um, New York to, let's say, Hawaii takes about 11 hours or so, 11 and a half hours, depending if there's a delay or not. And then, yeah, my uncle did that same flight without any hesitation. Yeah, so it just kind of puts things into perspective. It's like, yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Sonia. Really, thanks, because I think people will take a lot of comfort in that kind of thing, and I'm sure you take a lot of comfort as in it too. I'm sure that when, you found out he passed away, you must have been very, very sad, but just knowing that he thought of you like that, that's so loving. That really is. It's so incredibly loving, and I think that's a beautiful way, because sometimes people feel like once their loved ones pass away, like that's it, they'll never see them again. But that's not true. I really, really don't believe that's true. And if Sonia's experience helps you guys in any way, like, well, if someone in your life passes away, just know it's only a matter of time before you're gonna see them again. And then, yeah. So for me, I've thought about my mortality a lot, and I've thought like I want to live a life where I hope I have many, many, many years of life left. And when I do pass away, hopefully when I'm in my 80s or 90s, I really want to live a long, mobile life if I can. I want to look back at my loved ones, right? When I see them. I know people say, so you're assuming you're going to get to heaven. I hope I get to heaven. But I really want to see them, and I want to say, you inspired me to live a better life. And I hope that other people are inspired to live a better life based on how you guys lived. Because, yeah, they, the people who passed away, like, I don't forget them. Like, I know people would say, like, Erica, it sounds like you hold on to grief, but I don't. It's just that I think about, like, all these wonderful people that are no longer here, and it's just like, oh, you wish you could talk to them. You wish you could have had more memories with them. And yeah, it's gonna suck, because it's like you like for holidays, for instance, right? Like, as you get older, you realize like there's gonna be less and less people, right? Right now, I have a bunch of family members who are living, but what's gonna happen in 30 years? What's gonna happen in 40 years? It's gonna get smaller, or you're gonna see people pass away, and then new life is gonna be in there as well, and then eventually, right? I'll pass away too. But yeah, I don't want to live a life where it's like I think about these people, but then I don't I just kind of like how they lived. It just kind of goes to waste. That's what I'm trying to get at. So anybody that you know that had a really good life, or if they treated people with kindness and respect, I suggest, if you miss that kind of kindness or respect, it doesn't mean that you cannot, you know try to be a nicer person or a kinder person and things like that. And yeah, because I don't want anybody, like, I don't want to see like less people like that in the world. And I think that the people that I've known in my life that had a profound impact, they embody these qualities, and it's not good to just mourn these people and then just do nothing about it, right? So like if you knew a person who always took care of themselves and their life was cut short, and you say, oh, I miss how much that they were encouraging me to, let's say, watch what I was eating or take care of myself. Like, you don't have, just because they're gone doesn't mean that you have to stop it. You can go on, and then you can say, I am who I am because of this person, encouraging me to be better. And just because they're gone doesn't mean that I have to stop. So, yeah. That's what I learned from my mom's passing. Like, my mom always encouraged me to be better. And yeah, I kind of like fell off the um, fell off of taking care of myself for a long time, because it's like you just, you don't have someone like that in your life. It's easy to forget about it. And I'm very, very thankful, and I feel very blessed that I did have time with my mom. Yeah. So yeah, life is short in the grand story. So all you guys, right, all you guys listening to this thing, be mindful of your time, because you don't know how long you have to live. And you don't know, like, right now, whatever age you are right now, before you know it, you're going to be 1 year older, 2 years older, 10 years older. And if you don't focus about the present, then it's very possible you can lose track of your life, and then find yourself 20 years down the line asking, what did I do with my life? How come I didn't live the life I wanted to live, kind of thing. So yeah, and that is all I am going to say. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a stream later today. We will see. But yeah, thanks for you guys for listening. If you guys did stay in and listen to this whole thing. And again, if you guys pick up anything from my streams overall, just hold your loved ones close to you. Hold your loved ones close to you. And if anybody has a terminal illness, don't don't assume you have a lot of time with them. Don't listen to the doctors if they say they're hopeful. Just make every moment count, because you never know if someone could take a turn for the worse. You hear about certain people, they go in for, let's say, like a surgery, and I know this is going to sound paranoid, but they go in for a surgery, like what they appear to be like some kind of like not so big surgery, and then they have some sort of complication that's not expected at all, and then they lose their life. So yeah, I always try to like stress that kind of stuff to you guys, because I know, even though I sound like a record player, I don't want anybody else making the same kind of mistake I did. And it's not really a mistake, but it's more like a regret. And if my streams help one person, that's all that really matters. That this stream was way too long. It's like going to be an hour, 30 minutes, but oh well. Um, I don't know. You know, the problem is that like if you have a terminal illness, you have to be mindful about how their quality of life is, right? So if you are not mobile, if you're in a lot of pain, you cannot go in a trip around the world, right? And let's say if you're prone to, let's say, getting some sort of seizure, right? It might not be in your best interest to take that trip. But what I think is important, it's like whatever people have, it needs to be put all across the freaking friends and family circle. Like, hey, this person has a finite time on the world. We don't want to be doomsday like, but get your ass over here and spend some time with this person, because we hope that they make it. We hope that they pull through. But if they don't, it's important to communicate and to spend as much time as we can with our loved one. That's what I would say. I know people would say that sounds really like very pessimistic or paranoid, but I know that in the future, if I hear anybody in my family, right, any friend, any loved one having this kind of stuff, I would be getting my ass out to wherever they are, and saying, you know what, fuck it, I don't care. Money can always be made back, but you really need to show your support, and then make sure, like, hey, you know what, you want to call me up, no matter what. That's what I learned from Jordan's passing. Jordan felt like he was alone, and it haunts me, because it's like I kind of think to myself, like, crap, what if he had just reached out to me instead of being apprehensive? Maybe he would still be alive. Yeah. Yeah, and don't speed, right? So ZMR says there was a car accident a few years ago. 17-year-old got or never put died on the spot. Yeah, I hear about people who get killed in car accidents. That's why I'm not happy when people speed, because I understand that there's always a small chance that you speed. You get into a car accident. It's not just you getting injured. It's not just your car getting totaled, but you can also hurt another person. And I always try to be mindful about that kind of thing. And I don't want to get too off topic, but this is Erica's stream anyway. I remember that Lewis was telling me, he said that he was driving and then he saw a car accident. And this was like last month or so. Last month, I think. And he saw a car accident, and a person was in a car accident and they were missing their arm. So their arm was completely gone. And yeah, so just, if you have two arms, if you are mobile, if don't take that for granted. So please do not speed. I know some people will be like, oh, please do not drink and drive, because it's not just about you, it's also about another person. And I never want to find myself in a situation where I stupidly, let's say, drink and drive, or I speed, and then there's a bad car crash and someone loses their arm, someone doesn't make it back home, someone dies. Like, I don't just think about myself for that kind of stuff. So yeah, just wanted to just put it out there, because I know when I was younger, right, people watch things like Too Fast, Too Furious, and they glamorize speeding. But if you speed and you get into a car crash, it's not just you, it's also another person. And you do not want it on you that you got into a car accident and you caused someone possibly to lose their life, or lose their limb, or lose their mobility because of that stuff. Okay, you guys, I'll talk